Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Matt Dobbins is a self-proclaimed better half of the Dobbins family. We'll leave that to the listener to be the judge on that one, as we've hosted his wife, Robyn Dobbins, on our show as well on episode 469 of our show. Robyn was also briefly featured on episode 424 of Boundless Body Radio, featuring some amazing stories from the attendees of Low Carb Denver 2023. And she is a well-known guest on various other podcasts, such as Vinnie Tortorich's Fitness Confidential, Bipolar Cast, and is the host of her own new and excellent show called Less of Me Success Stories. Anyway, enough about Robyn. Let's get back to Matt. Matt's weight loss journey is not something that you'll find discussed much on social media, but it is a story that resonates with many in the weight loss community. He had to battle emotional eating, sugar addictions, and binge eating to shed over 100 pounds. Matt credits his success to finding Vinnie Tortorich's No Sugars, No Grains, aka NSNG, and by following other carnivore and keto luminaries, such as Shawn and Robert Sikes, all of which who have been former guests on our show as well. You can find Matt on Facebook or Instagram at matt.dobbins.31. Matt Dobbins, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Balanced Body Radio.
Hey, how's it going, Casey?
It is so good. So good.
I love the self-proclaimed because she'll even tell you that I am the best side of the family here.
We'll see. I've seen videos of her lifting weights. I wouldn't want to mess with her, so I really wanted to make sure I'd left the self-proclaimed in there. Oh, man. I also just have to point out, like, as we were getting this done, you and I have met several times in person at lots of different conferences, which has been great. It's been awesome to get to know you and Robyn. And I pointed out to Robyn when she said that she got you booked on her show, and I still hadn't gotten you booked on mine. I told her, like, I don't understand what's going on. Just because you sleep with a guy, he gets to be on your show. I try to sleep with him. He doesn't get on my show. Come on, that's not fair.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be on it.
It's an honor to have you. I do also just want to point out that I just found out that you will be coming to Utah. You just told me that, and Robyn previously didn't know. So I'm going to hold on to that as like, that's my claim to fame.
Right. Yeah, no. She's that's going to be probably a discussion that we have here in a few minutes.
Yeah, there we go. Excellent. Okay, first question. We all know that when we change our diet, we start eating a carnivorous diet. People describe it as carnivore calm or carnivore zen. You really tend to kind of mellow out a little bit. And I think there's some haters out there. This might get a little conspiratorial, but I think there's other people that are not doing carnivore diet that don't experience that. They then try to take that away from us. So I've got a theory. Tell me what you think of it. I think that a lot of vegans out there are trying on the road to do things to the carnivores to upset them while they're driving. Do you have any stories or experiences about plant-based people taking you out of your carnivore zen?
There's quite a few of them in Austin. You know, we got Terry Black's fantastic barbecue in Austin, and the vegans will run you off the road because they see that you wear barbecue stuff. But yeah, so I think your conspiracy holds water.
Okay, great. And it's not like tinfoil hat. I'm glad you've
No. I think you're good. On that one.
That's amazing. So just talking about that barbecue joint, like I was at the conference, the KetoCon 2023. For that one, I didn't sign up for any of the like VIP dinners or anything. I didn't exactly know who was going to be there. Robyn reached out and said, "Hey, would you like to go to dinner with us? We're all going to go." And it's part of the group NSNG. I said, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" I get really tired after the conferences and like to kind of like relax a little bit. But I ended up going with you. I met you for the first time. You're kind enough to chauffeur me around at every place when we're at a conference and I don't have a car. And what an amazing experience. Not only was the barbecue place awesome, the food was great, but to sit in this table with this group of people that are all experiencing some of these benefits by following Vinnie Tortorich's NSNG, that is definitely one of the highlights of that entire conference for me. It was awesome evening.
Yeah, it was, and every single person there, some of them were new to NSNG at the time, and it was our first time meeting them. Some of them we had met the previous year at KetoCon, but it's like, especially when you're in those communities on Facebook and discussing things with them, once you get face to face with some of these people, it's like an old friend that you haven't seen in years. So it's absolutely amazing to be a part of that community. And I'm sure other communities are just the same. And going to these conferences and stuff, it's huge going to the conferences and being able to meet, the luminaries like Shawn Baker and Kim Berry and Robert Sikes, Vinnie, all of these people, you yourself, you got your own podcast and all this stuff going on. It's great meeting the people that push the message out there and have given back to people like myself that given our lives back to us by showing us the path. It's fantastic finally meeting them, but there's nothing better than meeting the people that help inspire you along the way and work with you along the way, and the things that you can just learn from them and bounce ideas off of and learn about their roadblocks and stuff. And so it's an amazing experience to take time and go to those types of conferences.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It kind of makes you forget, like in this time of like social media, it seems to be, maybe it's just my own bias, but I seem to notice that like we end up squabbling on social media and online about like the 0.01% of things when we agree on 99.9% of the other things. And like it's tough, and everybody thinks their way is the best, and it's slightly different. I know this is a thing for you. I'm bringing this up for a reason, but you get into a group of people and it's like nobody cares if somebody has a pickle with their brisket. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It is so aggravating to me and I probably upset people when I say this, but you have the carnivores that are, water and salt and meat only, and they will fight you to the death saying that you're not carnivore because you had an onion or you had, a little bit of side stuff with your meat. I look, the other side of that is that you have the people that are straight keto and they have some sweeteners and stuff. It's not for me, but they might have some sweeteners. I think the biggest problem with our community is we have so much infighting and finger pointing and arguing about what's best on this low carb diet, rather than coming together and actually working with people like Nina Ty Schultz and some of the other people that are out there trying to push the message. We could just all get on the same page and work together. You could make changes because this is a grassroots movement, and you have to come together to kind of be the roadblock against some of the other stuff that's going on in our food industry nowadays. You have the plant-based diets and stuff that are just blowing up, and in our schools and our hospitals, things like that they circle the wagons around them when they're attacked. Not us. We fight. We kill each other. We argue amongst ourselves, and we kind of push our own message down when we do that. So you touched a hot button topic for me because I get mad about it all the time.
Good. I couldn't agree more. And I wish more people could experience that dinner on that Friday night in Austin, sitting around and eating barbecue, and experience less of whether somebody is using a certain kind of spices or a certain kind of sweetener. You know what I mean? We've got way bigger fish to fry. And I agree with you 100%. We need to come together on some of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so contrasting, KetoCon, I got to hang out with you there 2023. We were just also at the Collaborative Science Conference in Las Vegas in March 2024. Dude, so yeah, tell us about your experience there before we get into your personal story, obviously, that we'll get into, but what was that like for you?
Oh man, that was mind blowing. So I'm not LMHR, but Robyn is. She's a lean mass hyper responder. So we had the opportunity to go to COSI, Dave Feldman's conference that he had there, especially to talk about cholesterol and whether it's good, bad, all that stuff, and just listening to some of the doctors up there, and even the God, what did they call them? The collaborative scientist.
Yeah, like a citizen scientist, the people
The
that weren't
citizen
like,
scientists.
in,
Thank
yeah,
you,
yeah,
thank you. The citizen scientists, and they talk about their stories up there. It was just, it was just mind blowing, and it was such a wonderful, intimate experience because it was still small. I doubt it's going to be that small next year, but it's really, I think it's going to blow up, especially with some of the science that's coming out about LMHRs. But it was such a great experience seeing Dave and Matt Bazuki's story. That's phenomenal conference. It was wonderful, and I I have a feeling they're probably going to do it again next year. If that happens, I mean, we're there, and I encourage anybody that has any questions about uh, high cholesterol, mental health issues, things like that with the low carb diets, go attend. It's going to be
Yeah,
fantastic every year if it's there.
couldn't couldn't agree more. I've been to a few of these now. That one felt it felt special. It felt like you're going to
Right.
be a part of something that people are going to talk about. Like, oh, remember that first time when, like, dude, we were there. Like,
Yeah.
so cool.
It's like something that starts out as a small meetup where it's just, you're just talking about ideas and stuff and then blows up to this massive thing.
Totally.
So,
Yeah, it was a really special one. I really enjoyed, again, hanging out with you guys. We did some dinners, which was great.
yeah.
We were all in the front row, which was really fun. One awkward moment when one of the speakers wasn't quite getting the hint that his time was up and had to keep getting reminded that he needed to wrap and he wouldn't. That I wanted to crawl through my chair and like leave as quickly as possible. It was so awkward.
I felt a little sorry for him. Dave was like, "All right, let's go, let's go." And he's like, "Okay, thanks," and just kept.
Thanks. Anyway, da 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 da. Like, dude, wrap it. So funny. All right. Well, that was awesome to talk about some of those things and some of those experiences. Let's talk about you and your own personal story. Like we mentioned in the introduction, you're not on the podcasting circuit. Are somewhat reluctant to be interviewed all the time. I know you're kind of a not shy, but just more of a reserved person. But your story is very inspiring, and I loved hearing it. So tell us about you and your story to health.
Yeah, well, you're right. I'm not on a lot of podcasts. I like to say that I'm Robyn's eye candy because she makes all of the, does all the rounds and stuff, and then we go do stuff, and I'm on her arm. That's it.
Yeah,
But
perfect.
yeah, right. So no, so I mean, I grew up, growing up in the '80s and and through the '90s. I was the chunky kid. I would wear husky jeans, things like that. Pretty pudgy. I wouldn't say I was like morbidly obese, but back then it was kind of hard to find the morbidly obese kid back then. Most kids were relatively in good shape. I mean, I remember doing the Ronald Reagan like fitness challenges where your PE teacher would make you do push-ups and pull-ups and all that stuff. So kids were in pretty good physical condition then. So I was kind of the pudgy kid. And nowadays I'd probably be the athlete if you took me from back then and put me in nowadays.
Right.
But so I always kind of had a little bit of a weight issue. And I grew up around it. My mom, she's battled with weight loss my entire life. She's doing great now, but at that time she did. So you I remember days of going to the dentist, and then after that, we pull over and go get Taco Bell, and sit in the parking lot and eat Taco Bell. So it's always been that kind of way for me. As I got into high school, just like any kid, if they start sports and stuff, which I did, I played baseball, I played football. I My senior year, I didn't run track, but I did like shot put and discus and things like that. But as you get a little bit more active, you start to lean out a little bit, and you get taller, and you don't look as big anymore. I think in my high school years, I was probably about 190, 195. But I was a middle linebacker in high school, and played on the offensive line. So I wasn't small, but I wasn't huge. Um, I did fairly well when I started into college, keeping most of the weight off. I didn't hit my first the freshman 15 that they all talk about. I didn't get that initially. I ran and worked out for beginning part of my college career. It wasn't until towards the end that I started, drinking beer and hanging out with friends and stuff, going to bars. And it was probably my junior senior year. I joined a fraternity and stopped working out and stopped running and things. Didn't take care of myself like I should. Um, and I should say, from the age of 13, I was a smoker. So I was a heavy smoker through that whole time. And part of it was me making the excuse that if I quit smoking, I'm going to gain all this weight, you know, because everybody talks about, you know, it reduces your appetite, but I can tell you right now, it doesn't. So Robyn and I met Robyn after college, probably about 2 years after college. And we got married and we had our first child. And I didn't really pack on a lot of weight then. It wasn't until the birth of our second child, Laura, that I really started putting it on. But at that time, I started traveling for work. I was part of a security team for a retail company. So I was driving around the country, going to different places, and eating bad. You know, I would put down a pizza in a hotel in a heartbeat. I think when I look at those pictures when I first started that job, I wasn't small, but I could see the progression of weight going on. So I traveled for work. So it's been in, I want to say 2000. So it started about 2007 is when I started traveling for work and really started getting all that weight put on me. Probably about 10 years later after that, it's about 2016, I stepped on the scale and I was 310 pounds. And that's kind of when I looked at myself, and I was like, my daughter was about 10 years old at that time. And I realized that I've gone down this road of self-loathing, binge eating. I was an emotional eater. I'd get upset or stressed or something. And, you know, there's been many a time that I would go to the grocery store, get candy bars and stuff, and just sit in the parking lot and eat them. Yeah, so it just it was a hard time. I think around that time when I finally stepped on the scale, I was so so done. I emotionally, physically, that I said that I had to do something because I wanted to be a good role model for my kids, and I wanted to be a good father. And I wasn't being that example by just sitting on the couch and going outside smoking and things like that. So
Can I just ask you real quick? Can I
yeah.
just ask you, like, so when you're in the middle of it, essentially, like, you're doing what everybody else is doing. Like, what you're describing is like, I'm driving around, snacks and treats. There's the pizza in the hotel. Like, that's all very normalized today. When I look at most people in my neighborhood, that's kind of what they do. Were you aware of those things not being great for your health, or was it really like, I'm just doing this, I look like a normal dude, and then it just hit you that one day? Or was it like, was there some like gradual awareness?
I think we're all aware when we're doing it, honestly. I think there's a certain amount of I don't know. There's a certain amount of I want to do this right now and I do it, and then after you get done, you're just you're disgusted with yourself. I, I I see it all the time where people are saying that I'm okay with myself being this big and yada yada yada. I know deep down inside they're not. They're playing to a narrative right now that I think is dangerous. Um, but I 100% knew in those moments when I was doing it that it wasn't good for me. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
But I don't want to say it's a learned behavior, but it's definitely a behavior that I guess it is a modeled learned behavior from my mom, and I don't blame her. I don't want to blame her at all for my struggles. You know, I don't want to blame my parents for any of my struggles. I'm a grown person that I should have taken control of my life at that time, but I didn't. And I think that's what people are missing, right? Is owning up to their mistakes, owning up to their own issues, and taking care of that.
Yeah. Man, I love that. Big shout out to Rose, by the way, who I've been able to meet in person as well.
Oh, I
Love
love my
Rose.
mom. My mom's a
She's
wonderful
great.
person. Yeah,
Great. That's awesome.
fantastic.
So what did you think to do when you had that conclusion and that realization? What were your next steps of how were you going to turn it around?
So yeah, so this is like what? So that's 2017. So now we're looking at it almost what, a 7-year process here of me losing weight, right? So I did what every big person thinks to do. I need to start working out. So what's the latest greatest thing on the internet at that time, or the infomercials? It's P90X. So I went out and I bought the program. And if anybody's thinking about doing that and you are large and you are out of shape, do not do that. You will kill yourself. Because I did that for, I mean, honestly, I did it for a little while and I did lose like 20 pounds. So, but that was the most excruciating 20 pounds I've ever lost. I mean, because you think about this large person doing this plyometrics, or, these push-ups, diamond push-ups, all these other push-ups, pull-ups and things like that. Even though they're assisted pull-ups on chairs and stuff, I'm surprised I didn't have a heart attack.
Wow.
Just being that big and going through that regiment was not good. And I mean, like anything else, like any diet, any workout program, I quit doing it. And I've done everything from going to Weight Watchers to Nutrisystem, a whole bunch of crash diets. Then it all stops because you just get defeated and you quit, right? So that's but I did lose the initial 20 pounds. And I think it was shortly after that I was trying to quit smoking, and I had to drive a long distance to get to work. So it was probably about a 2.5 hour drive, and I'd be gone for the week from home because I was still on the road. And I would listen to a podcast that would just kind of take my mind off of wanting to, light up and drive and smoke while I was driving. So I'm listening to this podcast one day, and they got this guy named Vinnie Tortorich on there, and he starts talking about NSNG. No sugars, no grains. Just cut out all that stuff, and you'll start losing the weight and all that. And I was like, "What? Come on, dude! There is no way that is that easy. This guy's got to be selling something on the side to promote, to make money and all that jazz." So I dismissed it at first, but then after listening to him and finding his podcast and listening to it, I decided, hell, what's it going to hurt? I've done everything else. So I started it. At that time, he had a PDF that you got, and it was I think it's like $10 right now, and it just gives you the roadmap to health. And so I started doing it. I actually brought it home to Robyn, and Robyn said, "Hell no, I'm not doing that. I love my pasta. I love all this stuff. I'm going to continue to do that." I said, "Well, I'm going to try this." And so I tried it, and I did. I lost another 20 pounds. So, I'm down to what is it? 270 about then. But
Much
it's
easier
real.
the second time.
Yeah.
Easier, right?
So I've lost that initial. Oh, so yeah, I've lost the initial 20 pounds off of P90X, and then I found Vinnie shortly after that. So lost another 20 pounds initially from my no sugars, no grains. And the problem is that it's really hard, and I feel bad for individuals like me, or actually anybody that's going on a weight loss journey and your spouse does not support it, because it's really, really hard to go down that road. Eventually Robyn, and she could, you can find her story out there. She'll talk about it, but she jumped on board and started doing it as well because her doctor wanted to put her on statins and she didn't want to do that. So we finally got on board together and started doing it because she had heard about it and wanted to start doing it, because she didn't want to do the statins. And after that, the weight just really started melting away. Um, and I'll kind of, she lost her weight really quickly. And unlike most situations, I know the male loses the weight really fast and the female usually doesn't. It was vice versa. She lost it really quickly, and I kind of went up and down, up and down, up and down,
Mm.
because I hadn't dealt with my I guess my inner demons, I guess is the best way to put it. I was still a binge eater. I was still an emotional eater. I do really well and lose maybe 10, 15 pounds. And then, I'd say, well, I've done real well. I'm going to treat myself and have a pizza. And I'd eat a pizza and I'd just start that chain reaction all over again. So it was probably, let's see, in 2020, when the world shut down, I was 260. And I would bounce around 260 to 250 back and forth. And when COVID hit, Vinnie had a NSNG summit online and brought on Dr. Baker and Nina Tai Schultz. He brought on all these people to talk on Zooms. And that's when we met. We found out about Shawn Baker the very first time. And so I got his book and I read it. And I thought, you know what? Let me just go straight carnivore, because I don't need, I don't really care for vegetables. I don't need them. So um, I went straight carnivore for a while, and I lost 30 pounds. And so it was like an eye-opening moment for me. And the other problem was is that we were locked down, so I wasn't going out and going to the grocery store and eating that stuff. And I worked for a restaurant company, so I wasn't going to the restaurants and eating a bunch of chips and stuff like that. So uh, I got down to 230 and was feeling great. And I started martial arts shortly after that in 21. It's something that I had always wanted to do, but I always felt I was too big. And I started jujitsu in 21, and then I started judo shortly after that, maybe a year after that. And I've always dealt with, like, I still had that roller coaster effect going up and down in weight. And in 22, I decided to compete in a competition and go to a jujitsu tournament. And I told my professor, I said, "Hey, dude, I want to try to do this." And I think at that time, again, still on the roller coaster, I was up, and it was around in February of 22. I was about 250 pounds, and the reason is that because I was that heavy is because I wasn't addressing my trigger, which and everybody has this, right? They go to Thanksgiving, they see everybody, and they tack on the weight. I eat pie like crazy. I would just shovel it down and just gain all that weight back during from Thanksgiving all the way through the holidays. And then January 1, I'm back up to 250, 260. And then I'm taking that whole year to drop 30 pounds. I get down to 230, and then Thanksgiving hit again. And then it was that cycle, right? And I probably some of your clients have that. I know a lot of people out there that run into that issue, and it's really dealing with that beast and taking care of it. So my jujitsu professor said, "All right, well, you're not exactly the tallest dude in the world, and I'm not. I'm 5'9", 5'10" on a good day." And he said, "We really need to get your weight down, because if we don't get your weight down, you're going to be fighting guys that are behemoths. They're 6'2", 300 pounds, and you're just not going to be able to." Yeah, so
No
you're
thanks.
not going to be able to do it. So we got to work on getting your weight down. So, and that's when, shortly after that, I read Robert Sikes's ketogenic bodybuilder. And obviously I'm not a bodybuilder, but I thought, you know what, this is a great way to figure out how to cut weight on a ketogenic diet. And that's exactly what I did. So I took from probably March time, when I was about 250, and I started following his program. and really looking at my macros and the calories that I was taking in. And that's when I really realized that a lot of people are, because of the diet mentality, they're not looking at having enough calories, good calories, right? So we look at the diet, the quote unquote program for the government puts out there, and I think it's based on 2,000 calories. Um, but that's nowhere close to what people should be having, especially someone like me, my activity level at that time. I'm eating about 3,100 calories a day. And that's when I really realized and learned that I need to feed my body because of my activity. Because if not, then my body's gonna it's gonna go down a lockdown mode and downgrade my metabolism and everything, and it's gonna hold on to all that weight and retention and stuff. So anyway, so I learned that from reading his book, and from March all the way through my jujitsu tournament, or up to my jujitsu tournament, I dropped 3 weight classes, and I went from 250 to 216. That had been the lowest weight I had ever been in my adult life since after college. I hadn't seen that weight in ages, and I remember weighing in that day. I busted into tears, and it was really an emotional moment for me. Um, and talking to Robyn that day, it didn't matter what happened on the mat that day. I felt elated. I won because of what I was doing. Um, so I got injured during that match. I actually pulled my groin, and I was out of commission for a while. Um, and I don't want to use that as an excuse, but I got very depressed after that because I couldn't work out. I couldn't get on the mat. You know, I got a little dark again, and I tacked the weight back on. Um, and I know I'm kind of rambling now, but I decided to do the tournament again because I figured I needed something to motivate me, right, to get back on track. So I decided to do it again. And last year, I started trying to cut weight again. But at the same time, I was still binging, and I was still sneaking bad food for me, and not taking care of myself. Uh, so I wasn't able to get my weight down to where I wanted it to be. So I think that match, and I wasn't in shape for it. So my mental side of it just wasn't there. I wasn't committed the way I was. I wasn't dedicated the way I was. So I actually lost that match, and I still have. Um, I only fought once, but for some reason, there was only 2 of us in that division, and I lost. And they hung the silver medal on me, and I was like, God, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this, and I still have it in my bedroom right now. And it was I don't want to say a motivator, because this is kind of where I've gotten to my new mentality, that like my new frame of mind. Because after that match, I had to take a big look at myself, and think about why I was doing this. Why am I trying to lose this weight? And I want to say the initial one was, like I said earlier, I wanted to be a role model for my kids, and I wanted to be a good father. And how was I doing that? By being big, but that's not it anymore. Um, I don't need to be motivated. You're already on this weight loss journey. You're already motivated. You don't need any additional motivation to get you going. To motivation is going to go away. You're going to wake up days where you're not motivated to do anything. Um, so I needed to. to take away from this mindset that I need to get motivated and start turning the motivation I had into consistency and dedication. And that's exactly what I did. So I've had to make my schedule, wake up at 4:30 in the morning, get to the gym, start working out, get about an hour, hour and a half workout in, be regimented about my diet and about what I'm eating, and then continuously training my martial arts. And that turned into, and a lot of people say that it turned into me being selfish. And I'll be honest with every single person that asks me about it. You damn right I'm selfish. I'm selfish because I'm trying to improve my health for my family, but I've got to do it for myself. I can't do it for Robyn. I can't do it for my kids. I've got to do it for myself first. They'll reap the benefits of me being healthy because I'm still here, but I can't rely on them as my motivation because they're not going to be there when I'm traveling for work to knock the food out of my hand. So, um, I'm proud to say that back in February, I not only hit the lowest weight I've had my adult life, I have now lost over 100 pounds. I I'm weighing in now around 209. So it fluctuates a little bit, but that's what weight does. But I'm right in that scale right now, about 209, and I couldn't be happier. I still want to take off about 20 pounds, 25 pounds, but I know I'm on that road and I know I have the right mindset for it.
And what an amazing story, and so many ups and downs. So I think it's interesting to reflect like the low points in what you just told us, like 2016, that must be rock bottom, 310 pounds. What am I going to do? You get some different information, you start losing weight, the days of doing the P90X, and you must have just been like killing yourself, these crazy hard workouts. And you're looking at all these ups and downs and ups and downs, and you think like, okay, being 310 pounds, that's the rock bottom. To me, last year is rock bottom. You were in way better shape than you were back in 2016. But it's like you said, you hadn't addressed some of the mental and emotional issues and hadn't got a grasp on that. And I think of everything that you've done, to me, that feels like the most scary, the most difficult, but also the most rewarding. And so when I hear all the wins and losses, that to me is the rock bottom. What do you think about that?
You know what? You're absolutely right. I mean, it was rock bottom. I think I got after I lost that match. Um, I did. I looked in the mirror and I got pissed off. I got mad at myself. I was extremely angry and disappointed and just disgusted with the way I looked, how I felt, and just mad for throwing away all that hard work I had done the year before. And yeah, you're right. That was kind of rock bottom for me because you make all those strides and that's really anything in life, right? You make all these not just in weight loss, whether it be work, weight loss, or your relationships. You put all this effort and this energy into it, and then you just kind of throw it away and throw it out the window. And it was definitely a an eye-opening moment for me, and something that I don't ever want to experience again. So you kind of, and I told Robyn this, that I stepped on that scale when I finally got to losing the 100 pounds, and I took a picture of it and I showed it to her, and I said, I'm never going back. I'm not going back. It's not worth it. There's no Snickers bar, whatever you want to call it, whatever your vice is in life, it is not worth the torment that you're putting yourself through, and not only yourself, your family as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good point. And I just go back to that, that the 310-pound day realization, for example, like it's like you said, like I think most people are somewhat conscious of the things that they're doing, either helping them or hurting them. And your story is inspirational and amazing because unfortunately there's not enough of you. There's too many people that get there, but they don't recover, or whether it's the wrong information, relying on willpower, whatever it is. Like people get there, but there's very few Matt Dobbins stories. You know what I mean? And so I wonder, what advice would you have for that person who, is sick of being sick? They're maybe not dealing with any chronic disease now, but they want to see their grandkids grow up. Like, what do you
Right.
tell? It's such a knife edge whether somebody uses that and turns it around versus somebody that knows it, sees it, maybe tries, but maybe doesn't. It just gets worse.
So, there's this and I kind of roll back to martial arts because I listen to a lot of martial arts stuff and stories and stuff, and it's just there's inspirational stories out there that just kind of, and I don't know how true they are. They're probably all malarkey, but it's what you grasp onto that kind of gets you going, right? So this one kind of is what reframed my mindset, and I'll go ahead and tell it if you don't mind. It's
Please.
it's called the one arm judoka, and it's about a young kid who is he's probably 6 years old, and he's in this terrible car accident, and he loses his left arm in the car accident. And his parents, they try to do things for him as he's growing up, and he gets to about the age of 10, and they decide to put him in judo. So they take him to this judo dojo, and they go to the sensei, and they say, can you teach him judo? And he goes, oh, absolutely, I can teach him judo. So he starts teaching this young kid judo, but he's only showing him one move. And I can tell you right now, there's literally hundreds of moves in judo. From throws, hip throws, over the shoulder throws, trips, sweeps, all that stuff. There's hundreds, but he's showing this kid this one move. And that's the only one he shows him. And he's training him. The kid's showing up every single day, and just learning this one single solitary move. So about a year into his training, his sensei takes him to a tournament and says, you're going to compete. And this kid's like, oh my God, I'm going out onto the mat and I only have one move. And these other kids, not only are they bigger, they're stronger, and they have two arms. I have one move. So he gets up there and he gives it his all. His first match, the guy comes at him, he grabs him, throws him with this one move. The next match comes up, same thing happens. The kid comes at him, he grabs him, throws him, and does that one move. So he makes it to the gold match round. He's about to win the tournament if he beats this one guy. And the kid is like a gargantuan compared to him. But the match starts, the kid starts coming towards him, and he closes his eyes, opens them up, and flips this one move off and wins the tournament. So he goes to his sensei and he says, how did I do that? All these kids have been training just as much as me. They have two arms. They know all of these moves, but I only know this one move. And the sensei looked at him and he said, the only defense to that one move is by grabbing your left arm. And the sensei said, you are a master at it because you showed up with consistency, dedication, and determination. Not motivation. And that's where I needed to change. I needed to change my motivation and turn it into consistency, dedication, and determination. And that's all I can tell somebody. Don't wake up motivated. Take whatever motivation you have to lose weight, make a plan, get consistent with it, be dedicated to yourself, and be determined to change your life.
It's so good, dude. I love it. I heard you tell that story on your wife's show, and I just absolutely loved it. That's a wonderful, wonderful story and a great way to illustrate that. And we do rely so much on our willpower, and it doesn't work. So I absolutely love that story. Thank you for sharing that. Do you have to ask you, what does your diet look like today? What are the things you're eating and focusing on? What are your strategies? Yeah, what things you're doing to maintain that success?
So I'm so I'm gonna be in a tournament in the end of the year, probably in October, I think it is. And it's a really large judo tournament. So I'm trying to get my weight down to which I know I'm gonna get there, uh to under 198. So I'm 20 pounds away. So I know I can get to it, but I'm cutting the weight smart in a smart way. I'm not trying to just drop 20 pounds like that and lose any muscle mass that I have. So I've been following Robert Sikes' program again and starting off in my maintenance calories. So I'm eating probably about 3,100 calories a day now, 2 meals a day generally. It's very heavy protein. Well, I say I'm working my protein up. It's still heavy protein because I'm very carnivore, but I'm adding a lot of fat to make sure that my fat intake's high as I start to cut the weight down. Um, or cut the calories down, excuse me. So usually it's a steak, ground beef, things like that. That's nothing flashy, but I'm adding butter to a lot of stuff to get that and MCT oil in my coffee, things like that to make sure I've got the fat intake. So that's the thing about carnivore. It's not flashy. It's not all inspiring stuff, but I love steak. I love ground beef. It's good for me. It may not be for everybody else, but that's generally what we're eating a lot of in the house.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. In my nutrition coaching manual, they divide our different clients into different levels. There's basically like 3 different levels we classify people into. Level one, they insist it's like 95% of anybody you will ever work with is in this level. Trust us, it's at least that number. And I would say, in my experience, it's probably even a little bit higher. I'm a level one person. Level two and level three is getting to people who have more specific goals, all the way up through like elite athletes, Olympic athletes, people competing at the highest levels. And basically, as you're going through all these things, like level one, regardless of what I think of the actual advice, I don't think the actual advice they say is that great, but it's, eat the rainbow of vegetables and make sure you're portion controlling, getting protein. And like, okay, if you're eating standard American, this is good. You'll make progress. It's fine. But it's basic stuff. It's just you can't be a level two until you nail this level one stuff. As you get up to level two and level three, it's like, okay, you got specific goals. I'm caring less and less and less about how you're getting something done. I don't care. I told you in this meal to eat 43 grams of protein and 10 grams of carbohydrate and 27 grams of fat. Like, you figure it out. I don't care. Like, you have to do it because that's how specific your goal is. And you're probably somewhere in between, which then we have to talk about things like tracking. A lot of times in carnivore, we say you don't need to track, eat to satiety, calories don't matter. Again, whether you agree or disagree with any of those things, with your journey, you've got something specific you got to shoot for. You're now in this world of like, yeah, I'm eating 3,100 calories. I'm eating X amount of protein. I'm paying attention to protein and fat ratios. What has that experience been like?
So it has been a lot. It's been very different because you're right. Going in SNG, and I would tell anybody, you don't have to track. You don't have to do the macro juggling and all that stuff. Because especially if you're obese, you have that weight to lose, that fat to lose. You probably don't need to really worry so much about how much you're taking in because and just eat this till you're satiated. Because it's going to work if you're not eating all those carbohydrates. You're going to start losing that weight. But for myself, uh, I I think calories don't matter until they matter. You know, until you get to that point where you're starting to stall and you're not really losing any weight again, and you're being honest about what you're eating. If you're being honest about what you're eating and you're not taking in a lot of carbohydrates and your weight is stalling, it may be time to track. It may be time to see exactly what your macros are, what your maintenance calories are supposed to be, things like that, because it doesn't matter until it matters, once you've got that weight down and you are stalling. For me, it was very it is a little scary, especially for somebody that is a former dieter, that rides that roller coaster of diets and stuff. because you always, your Weight Watchers, you're tracking, you're doing points and all that stuff. And if you've lost all this weight without having to track, and now you're kind of going back into, looking at your macros, your calories and all that stuff, there is a little bit of, being a little timid about getting into that world again. But again, if you are committed to yourself and you are committed to the type of food you're putting into your mouth, that tracking system doesn't scare me anymore, and it shouldn't scare you, as long as you're being honest with yourself and you are being honest about what you're putting in, and you're putting into your body.
Yeah, great advice. I love that. Okay, I hate to give her more airtime than she's already gotten. We already did that whole episode about her, and she's the example that I use all the time. In fact, I used it this morning when I was explaining to somebody who had never heard of the lean mass hyperresponder phenomenon, to say what this is actually like, because we talk numbers and we talk about heart attacks and we talk about LDL cholesterol being a certain level, and then you get to know people and it's a person, it's my friend, it's your wife, and I can set up this scenario by saying, like, okay, people have like serious mental, physical disorders that low carb is very, very therapeutic for. A therapeutic nutritional ketogenic diet can really help with a lot of things. Your wife being bipolar, you experience that, going through that with her. She finds a low carbohydrate diet, symptoms improve, and eventually pretty much go away. She's not on medications. Come to find out, her cholesterol goes sky high through the roof, and it's the bad LDL cholesterol. So, okay, great. Well, let's mix in some more carbohydrates. The cholesterol falls, the bipolar comes back. And I always put it on people. What do you do? What would you do? You have to decide whether you want to be medicated, whether you want to off yourself because it's so miserable. She was basically comatose for like an entire decade of her life, or you get to live with either those bipolar symptoms or a very high cholesterol level. That's not fun. That's a very difficult kind of thing to face. And I don't blame anybody for feeling weird about that. When my wife turned a cholesterol test last year, it was kind of a similar thing where LDL was sky high, HDL was high, triglycerides were low, lean mass hyperresponder. It's one thing when I'm making a decision about the things that I want to eat and I'm eating a lot of meat and saturated fat. It's totally different when it's somebody who you love and it's an actual person. And so what has it been like in your experience to see that secondhand to the person that you care about the most on this entire planet, and to also see what we mentioned earlier, people like Dave Feldman doing amazing research to try to get to the bottom of this so people like your wife can feel better about the lifestyle decisions they're making?
And what I can tell you about this whole situation is that, first of all, I'm going to support Robyn either way. I mean, we've been married for 21 years in May. And a lot of that time we did have, we went through the struggles of her having being bipolar and being, as you said, kind of essentially comatose. I would not trade any of these days we have right now where she's engaged. Her relationship with our daughter and our son is night and day compared to where it was when in our early years. I would not trade any of that for her being the way she was, and by eating carbohydrates and then being on a litany of medications. And you're right, it is a choice, because you've got to choose whether you want to live through hell like you did, or you want to cherish the days you have right now. But like I said, or like you said, you have Dave doing this phenomenal research that is really groundbreaking when it comes to the LMHR, that I don't think we're really scared. We're not scared of what's going to happen, because we're cherishing these days, but we're also optimistic about the future, because we know that the research is out there that's trying to show the great things that are coming out of people that are LMHR. She's got a zero CAC. She's just doing it's a phenomenal experience right now. And I wouldn't trade that for the past, not for a minute. And I encourage anybody that is a spouse that is going through an emotional roller coaster, trying to support your spouse that is bipolar. I encourage you to start looking up Metabolic Mind online. Start looking at the research. Start looking at the videos and the Bazooki group. Start looking at all that stuff because the research they're doing is helping so many people. Listen to those stories and try to change it now before it's too late, before you lose those days.
Wonderful, beautiful answer. I absolutely love that. I'm in the middle of preparing to interview Dave on the show. It's the second time he'll be coming on the show, and just so much looking forward to it. And as part of the preparation, I'm trying to get his story from all the different angles and the debates that he's had, the pro LMHR, anti whatever, like wherever you fall on cholesterol and LDL. And as part of the process, I've listened to one of my absolute least favorite podcast episodes I've ever heard. Top 3 of the worst ones I've ever heard. I probably listened to it like 3 or 4 times. A show that I generally like, especially in the past. I'm not as much into it anymore. But Dave Feldman appearing on Peter Attia's The Dry podcast was awful. I thought it was awful. I thought it was very condescending. I don't know if he meant to come across that way, but I wish he would acknowledge like this kind of a story. That somebody that did not want to go on a statin, who is dealing with something and now has really high cholesterol. I just wish this would come around more and people could understand those types of conundrums and be a little bit more empathetic to people that have to make these decisions in real time.
Well, it's almost like I akin it to somebody that's on a machine for life support. What life do you really have at that point? I for Robyn, when probably in the darkest days of her being medicated, it was wake up, get the kids to school, come back and go to sleep, and then make sure you have an alarm set to get them off the bus. What kind of life is that? I mean, you're not living life, you're letting life pass you by. And especially if you've got small children right now, now's the time to do it. Now's the time to cherish those moments with your children and your family. And if you are struggling with that, like I said, you need to start looking at Brett Scher and the Metabolic Mind, the Bazooki group, all those people that are doing and Dave Feldman that are doing all the work to help these individuals with mental health issues and addressing diet rather than throwing lithium or Prozac or whatever at the problem. I mean, that nobody is deficient in lithium. Nobody is deficient in Prozac. We are deficient in nutrients. Excuse me. And that's the thing that angers me the most about these doctors that talk down about this research is that do you really deal with these individuals that are having problems? Do you live with any of these individuals having problems? Or are you just band-aiding the problem, the issue? And that's all I see. And that's what angers me the most. I swear. I'm not a violent man. I say that as I do martial arts, but I'm not a violent man. But I swear I just wanted to reach across and grab Robyn's former doctor and just choke them because of just the things that are out there now that we are learning and finding out. And what a wonderful time to be a part of it. All this new research and stuff. It's fantastic. And to see the people that are arguing the points and not really looking at the research and just sticking to their guns of this old thought process that hasn't cured anybody, hasn't really helped anybody, but we're just going to hang on to it because it's the easy way. The things that we're doing are not easy. It's not easy to change your diet. It's not easy to lose the weight. It's not easy to tell your doctor no I'm not taking that pill because that person in the room is supposed to be the smartest person in the room. They've gone through all of this education. What do I know? Here, let me have the pill. It is hard to sit across that doctor and tell them, no, I'm not doing that. And she is a strong, strong woman, and I will back her up 100% anytime that she's faced with that again, because we're not going down that road.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, as part of you getting involved with this work, and Robyn working a bit with Dave Feldman, you have actually been featured in a bit of a documentary. I got to spend some time with Dave Feldman, so I don't know how much you can talk about the project, but if nothing else, like, what was it like to hang out with Dave and spend time with him? Probably thank him for all his work. Like, that must have been pretty special.
It was really cool. It was funny. So yeah, we found out that Robyn was going to be followed around for the documentary, and I didn't realize it until shortly before the document they came to film that Dave was coming down too. So we were supposed to talk to Dave individually, and it was really comical. I was supposed to meet Robyn meet at our gym that she works out at, and I'm leaving the house, walk out the door. I see Robyn driving down the road to the house, and I was like, okay, well, she's done. I got to get out there. And I'm getting ready to get in the car, and there's somebody else in the truck with her. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Dave Feldman. So they pull in, and Dave jumps out of the car and says, hey, how are you doing? I'm Dave Feldman. I said, yeah, I know who you are. I'm Matt. And so he came in and he had lunch at the house, and we got to talk about the all the research. Well, not all the research, because his things weren't released yet, but we got to talk about how this has come up, and how the documentary was formed, and all that jazz. It was fantastic. He's really, really such an amazing individual, and such a caring person. It's funny, I'm not big on hugs, but I went to shake his hand at COSI, and he goes, nah, come on, we're huggers around here, and he gave me a big hug. So he's really a great, great guy. Really enjoyed spending time with him, and being able to be involved in this project.
Wow. I
Even
hope
though
he told you.
I'm in the background. This is Robyn's thing, not mine.
Still so cool. I hope you told like one of your friends, like, what'd you do this weekend? Like, oh, I hung out with a nerdy software engineer who studies
Yeah,
cholesterol. Like,
yeah,
that's fun. And
yeah.
it was amazing. It was the best.
I am not a smart individual, so listening to him talk to people is kind of like, okay, right on. Even his tweets, I'm like, yeah, I was lost halfway through this.
Yeah, yeah, it's a stretch for sure.
Right.
Oh man, well, it's a stretch for sure. But I got to see you in the front row of his conference, hearing him and others talk, and you were right there, dude. You hung the whole time, like you were getting it. It's such a cool, and like I said, very inspiring story to hear what you've gone through, what Robyn's gone through, what you guys have had to choose to do as a family. And I do think it is really inspirational, and people need to hear it. So again, this is kind of the beginning of your podcast being hosted journey, but I hope you appear on others and continue to share your story, because it is very inspirational. Will help people out there for sure. I've really, really enjoyed this conversation, and very much have enjoyed our friendship, Matt. Where would you like people to go to find you and connect with you and your work?
So I mean, I'm on Facebook, and then also my Twitter is at Matt Dobbins 5, and then my Instagram is matt.dobbins31, I think. I believe that's it. I don't post a lot, but every once in a while I'll jump on there and throw something on. And usually it's either me competing, or me losing weight, that doing a weigh in or a workout or something like that. But I'm more of a scroller, following people and just seeing what they're posting and stuff. But every once in a while I'll do something.
That's great. No, that's awesome. We'll tag that in the notes. If somebody were to reach out and just have like a question for you, could they just DM you on social media and you'd like reply?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. What's your hourly rate? Do you charge for the coaching?
Man, free for anybody that wants to take back their life.
Dude, that's the best. What an awesome way to end this conversation. Matt Dobbins, thank you so very much for finally coming on the show. Again, debatable who's the better half, but I think you're both pretty damn awesome, and I love the two of you together. So thank you so very much for taking the time to do this today. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Love doing it.
Oh, great. It was awesome. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.